It is indeed a lovely pleasure for me to introduce our next performer. He is a fellow Celt. Eoin Stafford will be performing an old Scottish folk song called the Copper's Song, written and made famous by the late Hamish Imlach. Eoin will first explain the meaning of the song, and then he will sing it a cappella. Ladies and gentlemen, give a warm welcome to Eoin Stafford.
Thank you, Sam, for that lovely introduction. I was a little nervous being a fellow Celt. You know, the Welsh and the Scots, we kind of rib each other a little bit, and I was expecting Sam to introduce me as a guy from Scotland where men are men and sheep are nervous, but he didn't do that, so I appreciate that, Sam. In that case, I won't say anything funny about the Welsh. Well, actually, thinking about sheep, what do you call a Welshman with a sheep under one arm and a goat under the other? Bisexual. Anyway. Sorry, buddy. So when people hear I'm from Scotland, they think of, you know, beautiful mountains and glens and heather-covered hills and the deer running wild and lochs and rivers and beautiful castles. And yeah, a lot of Scotland's like that. But the part that I'm from, unfortunately, is not. I'm a lowland Scot from the Glasgow area, and when I grew up there in the 50s and 60s, it was a highly industrialized area. Ironworks, steelworks, shipbuilding, coal mines, a tough area. Hard-working men, hard-drinking men, hard-fighting men. It was a very, very violent area. In those days, the workers would get their wages in cash in a little brown envelope called the pay packet at the end of the week. And in the exterior of the packet, there'd be written all the various deductions and taxes and whatnot. So on a Friday night, what would normally happen, finish the work, they'd rush home, quick cleanup, have a bite to eat, and then off to the pub. Now, the pubs in those days closed about 10 o'clock at night. So invariably, what they tried to do was drink as much as possible in a very short period of time. So you had a lot of drunkenness, which led to a lot of violence, a lot of fighting, a lot of crime. Friday nights were particularly bad for this taking place. And the policeman would always be out on a Friday night. And in those days, you'd seldom see a police car. The policemen would walk what they called their beats in pairs that have assigned areas they would walk, and they'd patrol those on foot. There's a very famous, as he mentioned, Hamish Imlach, who was a Scottish folk singer. And Hamish performed a lot of traditional songs, but he also wrote a lot of his own stuff. And Hamish was a wee bit satirical. For example, two of his best-known love songs were entitled The Ballad of Hairy Mary, okay? And It's Better in the Dark. Gives you an idea how satirical it was. So Hamish noticed that the policemen back then, just as they are now, were reluctant to do the paperwork that's associated when you encounter a crime. So he penned this little song called the Copper Song, because a copper was what we had in slang term for policemen in those days, the coppers. Hamish penned the Copper Song about a typical Friday night in the Glasgow area. And it goes something like this. It was Friday night in Glasgow. The coppers were out on the beat, looking for murder and arson, and drunks as they stood in the street. Now 2 of the chief constable's agents had notebooks quite full of names. 14 men, 3 women and a dog, for peeing up closes and lanes. It was 12 o'clock when they found it. It was lying there just like a log. 'Twas a badly bashed about body, tire marks scorched up its physog. So they went through the usual procedure. They kicked it to make sure it was dead. Then they went through its pockets and they shared out its cash, and they smoked all its fags while it bled. Then they lifted up this body, one at the head and the feet, and they carried it off to an alleyway Then they dumped it on another man's beat. It was 3 o'clock when they refound it, propped up in an old chip shop door. It was naked by now, with a note round its neck. Not wanted on beats 3 or 4. Thank you.